Good evening. I have 7 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Here.
and Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Pastor Gary Green to lead us in prayer. Pastor Green.
Thank you. Let's reverence the Almighty with bowed heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, we pause at the beginning of this council meeting tonight to thank you, Lord, for people that want to serve. Thank you for this mayor and this council. We thank you, Lord, for another day. We thank you for the grace given to us through faith in your Son, Jesus Christ, and the hope of everlasting life. Father, you are the source of all wisdom, the source of all light, the source of all benevolence and goodness and grace and mercy. And you are the source of that wisdom that brings unity. So we pray tonight, whatever decisions to be made, we work together in unity to bring the best for this community. Father, we thank you that we always find hope in you. So may your light, wisdom, and guidance bring us unity, which is so rare in the world we live in tonight. We give you thanks for faith, for your power. We pray for your divine assistance, your grace, and your comfort over our community to keep us safe and keep us always looking to you for our help. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the American flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is determine agenda additions. Anybody have any agenda additions to make? Hearing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. So this includes the minutes from the September 19th regular city council meeting. It also includes my appointment of Ted Henry as an alternate voting member of WAMPO Transportation Policy Board. Currently, I am the city's board member, and Ann Stevens is the alternative. We may have a situation where both Ann and I are unavailable. As such, it would be good to have a second alternate. And then lastly, on the consent agenda is the final report from Aurora Park Gravel Road Task Force. In 2022, we established the Citizens Gravel Road Task Force in response to concerns about drainage and dust on gravel roads in the Aurora Park neighborhood. The task force has concluded their work and have submitted their final recommendations to council. The report is included in your packet. The action is to receive and file the report. A big thank you to the members of the task force for their work and recommendations. I am hereby requesting that the recommendations be a workshop topic for future consideration.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Ms. Hamburg. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Discussion and approval of appropriation ordinance. So the appropriation ordinance is an on average month of expenditures, including CCUA operation and maintenance cost of $92,000, liability insurance of $3,000, and one payroll. Large expenses include $5,000 to Dollinger for Woodlawn pump house repairs and fuel totaling $8,000. Consider a motion to approve if
Mr. Mayor.
that's what Mr. Dean or Mr. David.
I'll make a motion to approve appropriations ordinance number 23-18.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Dean. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no city requested appearances tonight, so are there any citizens here that wish to speak to council? I've received no cards, so I assume not. Okay. Move on to council member reports. We'll start with Mr. Welch.
I have no report.
Mr. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did attend the CCUA meeting on September 28th. It was a relatively short and uneventful meeting. Did discuss a significant purchase that had to be done kind of in an emergency situation where a transfer switch had failed at the plant and had to be replaced immediately. That ended up being like a $40,000 to $50,000 unplanned event, as well as considered an EPA access agreement for the site where the EPA is going to be putting a remediation facility on CCUA property that'll actually create some additional water that's available for the CCUA to treat. And those are kind of the big items. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. David,
No report. Thank you.
Mr. Dean.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a few items to cover. On 9/19, I attended the ribbon cutting for a new business in town, Bel Air Secure Storage, which is located south of 53rd on the west side of Webb Road. Just wanted to congratulate Andrew Reese again and his team for their success and investing in the growth of our community by opening a new business. On 9/22, I attended the Safe Routes to School presentation that was on the final day of KDOT's Active Transportation Summit. It was really a really good thing to attend. Learned a lot about the relaunch of the program that KDOT is doing and the extra commitment to that with setting up a Bureau of Active Transportation with a chief to lead that effort. So KDOT's investing a lot more in that. And although in the past we may have not been able to qualify for funding because we're in the WAMPO area, these are state funds. They are not federal funds, and WAMPO manages federal funds. So there is some opportunity, I think, for Bel Air to potentially tap into some new grant money that'll be available for improving safe routes to school and other things. There's programming. There's also some Kickstart funding that they've mentioned. In any case, I've kind of passed some information on to Ty and staff through email just to kind of follow up on, and excited to see where that might lead. So, and then tomorrow is the monthly Bel Air Area Chamber of Commerce lunch hosted here in the community room downstairs. State Senator Carolyn McGinn will be the guest speaker. It starts at 11:30. So there is lunch. I think it's $9 if you want to eat, but feel free to attend if you want to see Carolyn. I'm sure she'd love to see you. And then this weekend, I'll be attending the LKM League of Kansas Municipalities Conference. It'll be here in Wichita. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good, thank you. And WAMPO did fund part of the 53rd Street for a sidewalk bike path there. So that was a good win for us. Ms. Hamburg.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Wednesday, I attempted to attend the rescheduled tree board meeting. They ended up not having a quorum, but stayed and chatted with a couple of their members that were there for almost an hour. They have some ideas about some community engagement. I kind of reiterated that we have a pretty efficient, maxed out staff. If they want any additional help, and they said, they had access to Canva and some people that were proficient in it, so they could make up some social media items that could be passed on to the city. My primary purpose was I'm interested in kind of getting a group together to maybe deal with some of the litter in the area, and a couple of their members were very open to that, especially in the parks. So that was encouraging. I filled in for mayor at CCUA on Thursday. Justin hit the highlights of that meeting. Last night, I attended the flagship Kansas Tech's Ad Astra Summit, their award ceremony, and keynote speaker with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. It was really neat. The purpose is to kind of bring educators and industry together to keep the workforce pipeline here in Kansas filled. And even though we're not Silicon Valley, we have a lot going on here. So it was neat to attend that. Just want to remind residents that this Saturday is our fall cleanup day. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good, thank you. So I'll move on to the mayor's report. On September 20th, I was honored to represent Bel Air along with 4 other local bears who represented their communities at a special social and dinner with General Mike Minahan, the commander of the Air Mobility Command, and his AMC civic leaders. The general was wanting to better advocate for AMC and its airmen. Present were McConnell Air Force Base Commander Colonel Corey Damon and Colonel Dean Ferry, the commander of the 22nd Medical Group at McConnell. So in the picture that you see up on the screen on the far left is General Minahan. Next to him is Colonel Ferry. Then we have Mayor Russ Kessler of Hayesville, Mayor Randy White of Derby, myself, Mayor Ronnie Price of Andover, and Mayor Dr. Shelley Stedman of Melvane, the assistant to the colonel, and then lastly, Colonel Damon. So the next picture you see is a receiver on the Mays High School junior varsity team, Alex Benage. Somehow he got the same jersey number as a celebrity, a Chiefs receiver. To my knowledge, he does not have any celebrity girlfriend. So anyway, we'll move on from there. On September 21st, I attended the Sedgwick County Fire District 1 Steering Committee. We adopted modified action-based minutes policy to reduce the staff time preparing minutes and time reviewing minutes. The last set of minutes was 51 pages. So you can imagine that takes a while to prepare and read. So the fire chief is now forwarding reports he gets of significant fire calls. Since this meeting, we have received 3 reports. One was a serious traffic accident at K254 and Greenwich. Unfortunately, fortunately, no fatalities. Another was a mobile home fire at the south part of Wichita. And this morning we received one regarding a car submerged in a lake on the west side of the metro area. He does not get reports like this on every call, just the significant ones that may get media attention. And lastly, we heard the firefighters union about wanting to be recognized again by the fire board. We heard about some history of how they were just de-recognized a few years ago, and some changes within the union and some issues raised by the fire chief. No action, decision, or recommendation were made by the steering council. We are collecting information for future consideration and recommendation for the fire board. So please continue to support businesses along Woodlawn during the construction. Things are slowly moving along, but we will have to endure it for a few more weeks. And I will now ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will give a brief update regarding SAFER and how that's affecting us. It appears as though Evergy was requesting 18.8% across the board increases when it comes to certain services, specifically street lighting, which would of course affect municipalities. Folsom Siefken, who is representing us, and other municipalities, they attended meetings, they provided expert testimony based upon those conversations. Instead of an 18.8% increase, it is possible that there would be a 2.8% increase. So I want to be very clear. We are not reducing a rate from one specific number to a lower. What we are looking at is Evergy wanted an 18.8% increase, and it is possible it will be instead a 2.8. Well, that's tremendous, but it is not finalized. Everything still has to go to the commission. Everything still has to be approved, which will not occur until December of this year. The other thing that I would like to bring to light is Folsom Siefken had an opportunity to sign an agreement which would have Bel Air, SAFER, all those municipalities included. Folsom Siefken chose not to. I'm going to refer to their language because I want to make sure to avoid any type of miscommunication. They did this out of very good interest on behalf of their clients, us, the municipalities. They chose not to sign the agreement because by not signing, that is their way of saying we still think it's too high. And by not signing, we're still hoping that you will listen to more information, be more educated, and understand that this is a good service, a necessary service, and hopefully they will even go lower. I appreciate that, but they are still advocating on our behalf. We are still hopeful for a 2.8. It's going to the media, and I see people talk rate reductions and such, but I just want to be very clear. We're looking at an increase, but instead of an 18.8, hopefully it's a 2.8. And we're still following along. They're keeping us updated with all information. The experts have said this is really tough. This has been really hard on them. And I want to refer to what they said, that what they have learned is that no municipality or group of municipalities has ever stepped forward to say that this is not fair. That really, truly, the way that Evergy has done this increase, that it almost appears as though they have been over-earning. That's a new word that I'm seeing in their literature. But any payout that we would pay to Folsom Seafield as our contingency fee, that will not occur until a year from the final date of the final order from the commission. So it's just too early to see that right now. But that's a brief update.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate the update, especially in light of them Evergy having come to an agreement with the KCC last Friday. So good to know. Okay, the next item on ordinance resolution and final actions, item 11A. Did I skip something?
You skip city manager.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the city manager. Okay. I was so excited about the attorney's report. Sorry, Ted, didn't mean to
Get
overlook
ready,
you.
Mayor. More excitement on your way. So Vance Brothers will begin scrub seal or planning to begin scrub seal on Thursday on Oliver. They're going to have a pilot car and other flaggers to manage two-way traffic, but be aware that's all weather depending, as you know. So the plan is Thursday on that. Curbside cleanup this Saturday the 7th. Don't use your trash bins. I think everybody's trained. Just use a disposable box because two people come up, throw everything in the back of the truck. It's easier for them. No hazardous liquids, all the things. Please check website for the list. But again, we've done this several years. I hope a lot of the citizens are there. Fall Festival is the 21st from 10 to 2 at the Rec Center. And then we got word. So every year we submit our formal budget to the Governmental Finance Officers Association. And once again, we got the Distinguished Budget Award for that. More importantly, and I had nothing to do with it. I delegated it to Deb Appel, our city treasurer. I checked her, but she took it and ran with it and delivered for us. So that's just really tip my hat to Deb and my staff. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry, I overlooked the city manager report. I don't know how I did that. Okay. So we'll now move on to item 11A, which is a zoning change ordinance. The Planning Commission reviewed Chapel Landing 7th, which is J. Russell's rezoning application at their September meeting. Following a public hearing, they unanimously voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the rezoning request from R4 to single family to R5 multifamily residential. Staff supports accepting the recommendations of the Planning Commission and approving the zoning change. In review of this property, it is a triangular in shape, as you can see on the boards. It will be very difficult to develop any other type of development on this property. So I support the zoning change, and it is not likely anyone will be able to provide a better alternative to develop this property. So any discussion concerning the zoning change? I think Ann has something to say.
Yeah, just to provide the council with a little bit of background on this project. While it is a zoning case, we do have a site layout. Staff has worked with Baughman and Company and met with the developer on several occasions. They are intending to work with the developers at Bristol Hollows to deepen that dry pond, make it into a wet pond. They believe that while doing that, they can shrink the overall footprint of the pond in order to leave room in that reserve for a small park. The park would be available for use of the residents of that parcel. So that's the primary thing. We have worked quite a bit to get the travel within the area, no dead ends. I don't like dead end streets because then you get people having issues parking, turning around, et cetera. So we've gone through several iterations of the site plan. You should have the final plat before you, I believe, in about a month's time. It will come to Planning Commission next week. And if
Thank
you
you
guys
for
have
that.
any questions, I'm here, and Phil Meyer is here with Baughman.
Very good. Thank you for the overview. Anyone have questions of Ann or Mr. Phil Meyer?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg?
I just want to clarify that there is the parcel to the south where residents have had some concerns, and that is ongoing, right? We are just approving this northern portion.
That is correct. The developer is he's actively meeting with those residents to see what he can do to appease some of their concerns.
Okay, thank you.
So if I'm not mistaken, that green band at the bottom of the property is a easement for a pipeline. Is that
That,
correct?
yes, that is correct.
So nothing can be developed in there.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a comment. I don't think I'll vote against this, but I'm getting awful tired of putting more duplexes in.
Okay.
And while this is an R5 development, which does allow for duplexes, they are intending single-family houses.
They
They
are.
just wanted the smaller footprint because that is what is selling.
Oh,
From their
okay.
research, people no longer are wanting the large lots with the houses. They're wanting a smaller lot that's less acreage to maintain. So
That's good to know.
that is the intent.
Yeah.
There is still a possibility for some duplexes, but that is not the current intent.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
one more clarification. So this piece is just east of new development and it's only accessible off of 53rd.
That is
I'm
correct.
stating this so that people that can't see that can maybe understand this. And then the parcel that's south of the pipeline easement is not a part of the zoning change. And that is a piece that's a sort of adjacent or paralleling Woodlawn.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
The parcel that is not a part of this current zone change is between this triangle piece of property and the currently developed Chapel Landing Iron Gate subdivision.
Very good. Any other questions or concerns? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance changing the zoning classification from R4 to R5 on certain property located within the corporate city limits of the city of Bel Air, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. David and a second by Mr. Smith. This is a roll call vote, so I'll ask the city clerk to please call the roll. Is there any other questions or comments before she calls the roll? Hearing none?
Thank you,
Turn over to
Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Aye.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Aye.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Aye.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Aye.
Mr. John Welch,
Aye.
and Mayor Jim Benaj.
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Move on to item B. This is a proposal for the traffic group, from the traffic group. Garver is working on the design of 45th Street from Woodlawn to Oliver. They propose working with the traffic group for the traffic study. The traffic group provided the agreement in your packet. The agreement has two parts. The first part is intersections that have been identified as most important, and the second part is nice to have intersections. This project is in queue and to receive federal and state funding through WAMPO. With these types of projects, the city is required to pay 100% of all engineering design costs related to the project. The city's portion of this project will ultimately be financed with a GO bond, and the city will pay annual debt service over 20 years. This item was tabled at the September 19th council meeting due to unanswered questions. So Mr. Ken Lee with Garver's is here to provide more information and answer questions. Mr. Lee.
Well, good evening, council. Thank you for having me. And, last month, it's always good to have moments of humility to keep you humble, right? So I did do a little bit more checking to make sure what we're doing with the project and just make sure the scope as far as what we're doing. And I'd been looking earlier that day at 7-day traffic counts on 53rd Street project because I was giving traffic volumes to GSI to finish up their geotechnical report, and that had my brain going the wrong way on that. But I did talk to the folks at the traffic group about what they're intending, and these are going to be 24-hour counts, video counts at all the different intersections that are shown in the packet. 8 of them are the ones that we absolutely need to have for the report. The other 4 that are shown are ones that'll be helpful in making sure that we don't need additional turn lanes or other decel lanes or anything like that. So the part 1 is required. Part 2 is more optional. We're recommending to do both just to give us a stronger set of data. It falls within the budget that was set up when we had done the original proposal. What these are going to do is they're going to set up cameras at each one of these intersections, and they'll measure the turning movements and the traffic movements. And the reason why they're doing this as a 24-hour count as opposed to the 7-day count that we're used to is this will actually count. The tube counts don't really tell you where cars are turning. It doesn't measure these things. This will really track the turning movements and what kind of vehicles are turning, how many pedestrians. And they said that they'll actually, if you're interested, they can give you a video link so you can see the videos of of what's videoed if you're interested in that. But those will be available. And the purpose is it gives us a better idea of what vehicles would be using those turn lanes that we're proposing, as opposed to just looking at the raw overall data for the site. So, and that's why they do the 24 hours. It checks through the whole day and gives them an idea of not just how many cars are going, but when they're coming. It gives a better measurement of that. So, any questions?
Well, don't let them do Saturday or Sunday.
No, it'll be, and of course that's a good comment. They in the proposal it says Tuesday through Thursday, because those are the days of the week where, whenever you do a 7-day count, if you look at the average for the whole week and then compare it to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, those typically are where your averages fall. Mondays, Fridays, and Sundays are days where you can have abnormal measurements. And I talked to him about the other reasons to do it, and he said that if we had a large traffic driver, like on a weekend, if there was a mall or a large business or something that would have abnormal traffic on a weekend, you might want to look at doing a different count. But for Bel Air, the community that we are, he said the 24-hour count makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lee? Hearing none, if there any other discussion, or we can entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
just thinking about more, I'd like to do the extras just to do it right, but I'd like to kind of hear other council members' thoughts on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
the full study makes sense to me. I made the motion to table this last time because I was confused about the duration of the study. It still seems a little bit odd to me that we're just going to do a single day's worth of data points may be representative. I'm worried that it may not be representative.
It could end up being 2 days. They haven't. It depends on how many cameras they put out at once. They may end up having it over 2 days. But like I said, what they've found is that in suburban environments like Bel Air, where it's mostly residential traffic, you don't have large business traffic that varies from day to day. That as long as you avoid Mondays, Fridays, and Sundays, you're going to find fairly uniform counts is what they found.
Will they do things like make sure it's not raining that day? Because if it's raining, people may be more inclined to stay home, or if it's particularly hot or particularly cold. Like, those are the things that I don't know how precise this needs to be. But you're the engineer. If you're telling us that 24 hours is good, then I'll trust you. But it just seems a little bit odd to me.
Well, I did ask him about it, and it's a good question as far as the weather. The good thing is we are planning on. There are variables outside of our control, but we want to see the work that's scheduled out here on Oliver be completed. We want Woodlawn to be completed. We want to normalize everything because we don't want those kind of variables. And certainly, if we did see an outlier, if we're a week out and we see bad weather, that's a very good point that we should have a conversation with them about when to schedule it for. So no dates have been set at this point. And we do want to get it done before we get into wintertime, because that certainly can have a negative impact as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
Yeah, I'm in support of the whole study as well. I think if we're going to invest as much as we're going to in 45th Street, which we don't know what that number is, but we have an idea of the magnitude of it, then I think it's money well spent to study it a little bit more in depth and make some decisions based off a little bit more information. So I will support the option 1 and option 2, the 2 parts.
So I hear several members have said they support both options. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I'll make a motion to approve the quote from the traffic group in the amount of $14,800 for the 24-hour video vehicle classification turning movement counts at various intersections for the 45th to Oliver to Woodlawn Street Reconstruction project, and authorize the mayor to sign the related documents.
Well, second.
a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Dean. Any further discussion or questions?
That doesn't specify in there that it's how many intersections we're doing, does it?
I think it's in the map.
It actually,
the-
on there
the-
in the
or-
front of the packet, it has item 1 and item 2 that are the two scopes that show the intersections that are included.
So do we need to specify which scope in the motion?
They did by the total.
The 14,800.
That's the
Does.
total amount. Yeah.
Okay. Just being careful.
That's perfectly fine. Good. Make sure you know what you're voting on. So, okay, any other questions or discussion? Here none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item C is construction observation services for Elk Creek Third. So the developer is ready to move forward with water, sanitary sewer, and paving improvements. The developer would like to work with Garver for construction observation services. The costs associated with the project will be financed through a bond and spread as special assessments against the benefiting lots. And staff recommends council accept the agreement for construction observation services from Garver in the amount of $43,969.18. Ms. Stevens, you have some comments.
Just a brief introduction beyond what the mayor did. Elk Creek Third is shown up here. It is the empty property that is south of the courtyards at Elk Creek at 45th and Elk Creek Drive. That was designed by K.E. Miller. It was bid out 2 weeks ago. The bids came in over the engineer's estimate, so they are currently working with the developer to figure out what they want to do, how to move forward. I did want to make sure that we got the construction services agreement in front of you at this time, just to go forward. We probably could have held off until the next meeting, but I didn't want it to get lost. No money will be expended on that construction services agreement until no services will be performed until you have that construction contract in front of you. I'm assuming that it will come before you at your next meeting, but I cannot tell you for sure without getting more information from the developer as to what's going on there.
Very good, thank you. Is that road exiting to 45th Street there?
No, it
That's
does
a
not.
south
It's a
end?
dead end.
That's a dead end? Okay.
That is correct.
It doesn't look clear to me.
Yeah, no, it's not a very clear view as far as what's going on with the street, but it is a very small internal street with 10 lots there. So it's a pretty small development. It's intended to be similar to the units at the courtyards, the small lots with very narrow side yards, but it's just a different developer's concept of that same intent.
Okay, good, thank you.
The amount for this observation services could change depending on the changes to the project, could it not?
It is a not to exceed contract, so it's not going to go up. Garver has reviewed the plans and specifications and the bidding documents. That's how they come up with this number. Given what is going on, I don't anticipate anything with the project changing. I don't anticipate them taking anything out. We did bid out, I believe we bid out both concrete and asphalt. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they bid out the entirety of the project at once. So a single contractor is getting the paving, the water, the sewer, the storm sewer, the grading, everything. They may end up looking at breaking that apart. I'm not sure. That's what they're currently discussing, but Garver's will be standing by their number unless anything significantly changes. I feel that this number should be pretty applicable if they did decide to break it out. If something changes, I will definitely be back to you and let you know.
Kind of rare that we ever have them, construction services exceed the contract amount, isn't it? I can't remember us doing that anytime, have we?
As far as,
As far as a contract like this for construction
Oh.
services exceeding the amounts that we authorized?
no,
I
no,
can't remember
that
us doing
Garver's always done a very good job. They've always come in usually anywhere 5, 10, 20,000 underneath their budget amount. So that's just, they want to make sure that they give a healthy amount, not extravagant, but a healthy amount to cover what's going to go on. And they generally don't use it all. So we do not pay for it.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David,
make a motion to accept the agreement for construction observation services with Garver for the construction observation of Elk Creek Third water sanitary sewer in the amount of $43,696.18. Authorize the mayor to sign.
a motion by Mr. David. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Mayor,
Second by Ms. Hamburg.
do we
Mr. Dean.
do we need to amend that? Because that only lists water and sanitary sewer, and I think I heard somebody say there is dirt, or all of it will be done by a single contractor. So I assume the service agreement would cover inspection of all of the work, not just water and sewer.
Yes, that is correct.
So that needs to include roads, road work as well,
Grading and paving.
grading, yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for that motion language. If you could include paving improvements and grading and paving improvements in your motion, I would appreciate it. Thank you for that catch.
I'll amend that to include paving.
I'll second.
Should that be a not to exceed amount?
I agree with that too. I noticed that when I was reading it.
You want to amend
Amended for
again?
not to exceed.
I will second the second amendment.
Okay, very good. So just to be clear, we have a motion to accept the construction observation agreement that includes water, sanitary sewer, grading and paving service and sewer, and for a price not to exceed $43,696.18. Hearing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Item D is replacing the HVAC at City Hall. The existing HVAC units have been in service for almost 2 decades, installed in 2004, and their performance has deteriorated significantly in recent years. Maintenance records indicate that we have spent over $13,000 in the past 3 years. These costs are projected to increase as the units continue to age and the reliability of the systems becomes a concern. To address the ongoing maintenance issues, energy efficiency, and comfort levels, staff is proposing the replacement of units to begin at City Hall. And Ted Henry, our assistant city manager, is here to explain the plan and review the quotes. Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been up here doing budgets, doing salary adjustments, holiday schedules, and I think I've never received more good luck tonight, Ted, from my employees than today was. HVAC is very important to us and employee comfort. Like the mayor said, that's a picture of City Hall when we touched the units last when we built this building. It's been 2 decades. It's interesting to start a project like this. Keith Price helped me tremendously on designing of a plan of how to do this without disrupting the whole building. We decided on kind of a phased plan. This is phase 1 of that. If you've reviewed any of the quotes or my report, you'll see it's a lot more than just replacing 4 units. We're adjusting every unit. We're creating drip pans. We're trying to improve the current system we have in this first phase, as well as replace our 4 worst ones that we have. Here's kind of a very simple, I had to really dumb it down so Keith could explain it to me. So I figured I'd share my findings. We have 11 condensers, 11 units, 1 split unit in our server room to keep it cool and operating efficiently. The yellow ones are the kind of our worst units, the most problem childs we have. And those are the ones we're proposing to replace this phase one. Now, phase two might come right next, as soon as we get done with phase one, we're just going to evaluate this first phase, how much trouble it's going to be, and then go at it again. The interesting part of some of this is we're replacing all our thermostats as well. As you know, there's technology that is a lot better now with thermostats. So that's done. The other part in these proposals is we propose installing 2 mini splits inside of the downstairs conference room and the former upstairs conference room. What we found over the years is that's the downstairs conference room there. They have great, beautiful windows. It's great. However, in the wintertime, it's really cold in there. You turn up the thermostat to make it somewhat manageable for our guests. A lot of meetings go on in there. And likewise, in the summertime, even with those shades, the sun beats down and gets really hot. That sounds good and all, but this is where Mary freezes in the summertime because there's only one unit serving that whole area. So that's the design around the mini splits, is we can make everyone comfortable, even more comfortable at once. So each of the quotes allow for that. Now the hard part, rating kind of what we saw in the quotes, and this is a lot of Keith's work. We really, we got 4 quotes back from 3 different companies. The low quote was kind of what we have now. There's a lot of technicalities in it, but what we really did when we built this building was we were on a tight budget, and we put in some high beefed up residential units, and that's really not the way to go. I would say in our procurement policy kind of emphasized the pursuit of, value and what's going to work out the best. And I'll kind of go through a little bit of the quotes. The top one is a train system that is a little beefier, and it's rated best performance. And best performance, according to Keith, is it has variable gas valves, also known and to help with modeling heat. They use variable speed blowers that are the quietest of all 3 types of furnace. They're able to raise and lower the amount of heat they produce in small increments, and they work much like a car that you've put on cruise control, thus giving your house a very consistent heat. When we talk energy efficiency, yeah, everybody's going to say they're 90% efficient, but what really drives the dial is how much energy you actually consume. And a lot of that is, does someone go over and push the thermostat, or what you have it set at? Because once that motor starts, that's using electricity. If you have a variable motor that can go slow throughout the day, it uses less electricity than something that needs to kick on once every hour, run every hour at a higher speed, much like any pump you've ever purchased. So that's kind of what we saw in some of the best performing ones. Now, Better also has some of those 2-stage gas valves for our furnace, as well as variable speed blowers. It's just slightly less. So that's why our recommendation is really, of course, we want to recommend the best performing one so we can evaluate the 4 units. And if we say, hey, maybe we can do a better performance in this second phase, we'll go with that. But we're seriously comfortable with all top 3 quotes. The real judgment, what I asked you, is that leap from better performance to best performance, about $9,000. Is that worth it or not? Vibration and comfort is also something to consider. The ones in the top 3 also have better cabinets that store them. So you can hear it sometimes when our furnace is working real hard in the winter, or AC, you can hear the walls shake a little bit, even in this room. That would go away as well. So really the proposal tonight, and you can read through everything and I'll answer as many questions that I can, is to opt for a better performing furnace to get some efficiency, some quiet, some comfort, and also save some money in electric bills as well. And all this will be evaluated. I can't understate the amount of knowledge our building inspector, Keith Price, had. He's over 30 years, and he's comfortable with these 3 companies. That's another consideration as well. All three companies have done work for us in the past, and have been very responsive in the process. So.
Well, I've observed that the more efficient you can get out of these units, and I know the ratings don't always tell the whole story,
Yeah.
but the more efficiency, you could probably save the $9,000 in a year if you, by the way,
And
you
that's kind of
operate
why we were down that stretch
Right.
of, let's.
it. The way you operate it could save
Yeah.
it. So it could easily be well worth the extra money, but I'll let the council make that decision. I don't get to make it. So, any other discussion?
I do. Talking to a previous building manager, he told me that 10 out of 12 months of the year was air conditioning. So I don't think we should be putting that much emphasis on the heat part. And from looking at everything when I looked at it, I think the Rudd unit has a lot higher SEER rating. And I think that's probably where we should be looking at, because that's going to save us electricity 9 or 10 months out of the year, whereas the gas unit's 2 to 3 months. And so I think the electricity is going to be the much higher factor here in the savings. And I would suggest we go with the Rudd unit from Central Mechanical. I don't know what everybody else's opinion is.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
That was one thing that stood out to me, is there's a lot of focus put on the heating efficiency, and I wanted to ask about that. Seemed like a lot of the focus from the bids was on the heating side, and mostly they were spec'd at 13 SEER units on the AC side. Is there a reason that was the focus? Does the city see most of the heating and cooling cost on the heat side with natural gas?
I would say it's more comfort. You'll see floor heaters everywhere in the winter around here. So I think that was a lot of the focus, is getting a quality heating system for our employees, as well as, and I guess I don't have the spread between what we spend in the winter or not. I can get that for you. But it was more of that sort of philosophy of how cold it is in the winter in this building, just with all the cuts and curves, and how can we improve that?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg?
Did Keith have any preference on Rudd versus Train?
No, they're all quality systems on the Rudd versus the Train. He was really okay with all three. It splitting hairs a little bit. He did label the best performer at the Train Dan's Heating and Cooling, and that's only about $1,500 more than the Rudd. So and again, that's one man's determination. If you feel that AC having a higher SEER unit is more important, we can do that as well. He's okay with each performer.
And then my other question, just putting myself in your employee shoes, beyond the heating and cooling, what I think I read some of it, refresh my memory about, is there a big difference here with the kicking on over and over in terms of noise?
No, it sounds like we're leaning towards a more efficient system, which all of them would have a variable motor, which would help with that hard kick in. That's kind of, it's more of a quieter system.
But all three, top three, would you think satisfy?
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
That's, I believe in the report I said, however, we are comfortable, no pun intended, with accepting all three.
I did catch that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
So I have to ask, the basic performance at $38,000 is way cheaper than the better or best performance, like $25,000 cheaper. That's a large chunk of change. If I'm looking at that for myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about my house and my bills, and am I really going to see the energy savings to cover that gap? And I'm probably going to come to the conclusion that I'm not at that type of spread, and I'm probably, as an individual, going to make the choice to purchase the basic, because I'm going to be pretty convinced that a brand new system that's installed by licensed professionals, a reputable company here in town, even if it's basic, it's going to keep me cold in the summer and warm in the winter. How do you guys feel about the basic option? What do you think we'll give up other than, is it more than just energy efficiency that we give up there?
Let me comment. I just put in a new air conditioner unit in May, and we went from a 20-year-old unit that was maybe a SEER 10 to a SEER 16. Our electric usage is less than half of what it was before. That's a big savings, and especially if it's a 9 or 10 month out of the year because of the type of building. For our house, it may not have been as good a deal because we're talking 5 to 6 months for that savings. But, I kind of had the same thought. Am I saving enough money? And it's, should I be saving electricity or money was kind of.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
a couple questions I had is a warranty, like are all the warranties comparable, Ted? And then the other one was a lot of commercial buildings install larger rooftop type units. Was it discussed at all with them? I know we have a lot of different zones and we have a lot of different units on that map. Was it discussed with them to take the approach of let's try to reduce the number of units we have to replace by having bigger units, or is our system just not capable of doing that?
I'm sure if it was an option, Keith would have proposed it. He didn't propose anything of going to a bigger system or unit. We have a pretty nice setup over on the side of the building. So, and again, phase one, we can look at phase two, gather all the information we currently have with this decision and make a new one. Maybe, maybe we can go to a lesser, just see how it works. I understand the concern with a lot of it, but we've been operating under kind of the lower model and we're replacing motors, I think, and that's kind of why we also want to extend the life of some of the repairs we actually did in the last 3 years. Because if we don't have to replace them all, because they're running the motor, we just replace the motor. That's the other factor we're determining in this phasing is, hey, I put in a brand new motor and all the other things in one. Let's just, protect it a little bit.
Do we know what the ratings are of the systems that we currently have? Are they like on the ACs? Are they SEER 10s? I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah, I'm sure they're lower than the
what
current. Yeah, 100%.
I'm not sure you got an opportunity to kind of answer my question about what, from your perspective or staff's perspective, what would we give up with the basic option? Do we feel that there's a risk that we wouldn't be appropriately heated and cooled with that option?
I think it's just like the asphalt versus concrete decision. Yeah, it builds a road. However, I think in 5 or 10 years, we'll be in the same spot, versus a quality system.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
did we ever put a number on it? On the concrete and asphalt, we put a number on it. And this sounds like something that most of the salesmen would put a number on, that you'd save $9,000 a year or whatever it is by the two differences.
Yeah, they don't, as far as energy efficiency savings, they didn't, it's a little different than your home furnace. These are pretty big. And from what Keith's response is, it really is user error on some of these bigger machines is where you set it, how you program it, how you want it to run is going to be and I'm sure if you want, I can get a dollar amount that is in the perfect scenario, in the perfect situation that a salesman gives you. But
just an apples to apples,
yeah.
just this year versus that, what's the savings typically?
Because to go from the 13 SEER at 38,000 to the 14 SEER is 62,000 on the RUD.
I thought that was a 16 SEER on the road.
Is it the 16?
It's the one I quoted was the 16 on your
16.
quote. They did give a quote for a lower one. If we wanted to take that, I guess we could add that to the mix as well to compare with your $54,000.
I was looking at the
right?
highlighted thing in their packet that said option for 14 SEER at 61, but I guess we're at 62, so it's not a lot of money to go from the 14 to the 16 then.
My comment on warranty earlier, there is a difference, at least in the two of them, pretty substantial difference. So I wasn't sure was warranty even a discussion, or was this just sort of their standard warranty that they provided with the quote, I assume?
I think it's all standard. Most of them are 1 year parts and labor.
Right.
Those are the
And then manufacturer warranty on
and the
individuals.
manufacturer on everything else. I
Right.
think
Looks like the highest or the best performance one out of 20. There's significantly higher warranties on some of the parts.
Mhm.
Some of the warranties is what I could see just really quick glance, but difference between 12 years and 20 years on a couple of them. So there's a couple of things there too that are just not apples to apples. And I don't know how much that matters. I just pointing it out.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get lost in all the numbers. And one of the things that I'm thinking about here is I worry that we might be getting confused with efficiency, which is, how much energy does the thing waste with its ability to actually heat and cool the space. And I'm most interested in making sure we get something that's able to adequately heat and cool the spaces and make sure when it's cold out, the staff is warm, and when it's hot out, the staff is cool, and it's a comfortable work environment for everyone. And beyond that, it's a numbers game, a math game on how much energy are we going to save, and is it worth it for the more efficient systems. And I guess I'm not feeling like I have all the information I would like to really understand the math side of that on the efficiencies.
I think what you're going to see is when they reconfigure the ductwork so that we can split one room for another, that's going to be way more beneficial than anything else we can do. And that goes back to using bigger units. If we put bigger units in, we'd have to put lots of damper vents in so that we can control where it was going. And those are failure points as well. So
Well,
So, Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
I guess from my personal perspective, I'd be 100% comfortable moving forward with the basic option because I know the units need replaced, and whatever we replace is going to be way better. The duct work that's going to happen is going to be an improvement. The mini splits are going to be an improvement. So I'm 100% comfortable with that. What I'm still trying to figure out is for the upgrade options, which in my opinion, I think really just bias the energy efficiency. That's what I suspect. Does the math work out to make that make sense? I don't know.
do you want to table this for them to go back and do the math?
That's just my opinion. I don't know where everyone else is at.
and how do you, if we do go forward with tabling it, there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of considerations. What number would make you sway, and what number should I put out to the bidders to say the question of your efficiency that would make you able, you know what I'm saying? So what would the question be to the bidders?
Unfortunately, I think what we need to know is each individual's unit's usage. And we're not ever going to get that unless we put meters on each unit so that we could see what we're using now for electricity and what we'd be using afterwards. And the same for the gas.
You definitely have to make a lot of assumptions, I think, based on today's usage. But right now, I mean, we're really focused on the efficiency on the heating side. But from my personal perspective, I find natural gas to be a lot more cost efficient than electricity. We're less focused on efficiency on the air conditioning side. And I think we need to probably understand how much of our utility costs are driven by heat versus air to inform, should we be focused more on the efficiency of the electric or on the gas? That's one question that I have.
I had a physics teacher years ago that told me that, and I don't remember the exact number, so I'm going to just tell you some estimate about just to give you a feel what it says. He said the energy that you received at your house through electricity is about 40% of what was available at the generating plant. Okay. You lose that 60% in the generation and transmission of that electricity to your house. That being said, we went through the 70s of the all-electric homes, and none of those exist anymore. Almost everybody's converted them over to gas because they're way too expensive to operate. So I'm just saying, if you want to look at those efficiencies, physics already knows those answers to that issue. The variable here that you can't grab is how you use the system and how you're going to change that, and what's that going to look like, because like Mr. Welsh said, we don't have meters on all those units today, and so we can't say, well, they're using this much today, and what would a new one use? I just don't think we're going to get there, just from that perspective.
And if I may, and again, just my observation with this whole program or whole process, and there is no, to me, silver bullet that's going to help you. My silver bullet is in the trust I have in Keith of walking down the hallways every day for the last 30 years, knowing if something's ticking, getting up there, tweaking it. He knows the industry front way and backward, and he said any of the top three would be good with me. That's kind of what swayed me, because you're right. I was in the same situation trying to make sense of all the efficiencies and the numbers, and there is some baseline, and that's kind of how I tried to run the report. Is you have a basic performance, a better, and a best, and this is the reasons why. I understand the price difference in basic to better. And if you say, Ted, I just want to save some money, let's do the 38. That's fine with us. The reason we're having this conversation is because we have Keith here that knows our system, has been in it since we built the building, and said it would be better comfort, everything, if we did something a little more than the basic system. So that's all I have on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Amber.
that factored into it a lot for me too. And another thing is just thinking about what Ted said about what his staff said going into this and in this staffing environment. But it is a big jump when you go from the basic to the better performance. I would like to do middle of the road just because of the phasing and see how it goes. If we think we can go down, if we can go up. So I would be okay with any of the top three because there's not much difference. But if we want to balance it, we could do the 54,847 is how I'm thinking about without deep expertise.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
if I'm reading this right, the bottom train is a 13 SEER. And so is the fauna stock that's 16 less. And so that's what I need, is something from Keith or whoever and say, this is why it's worth 16,000 more.
Yeah, it's the variable. So on the furnace side, they have a variable,
Okay.
two-stage gas.
But
So
I still need a
Makes a world of
number, like
difference.
this variable saves me.
Yeah.
Over 10 years, it'll pay off, or over 20 years, it'll pay off. Just some rough idea.
I'm looking at some basic. We're fortunate to have the world of information at our fingertips here, and so I'm just looking at some information on the internet that basically if you bubble everything up under all the assumptions and you go from a 10 SEER, which we probably have right now, to a 13 SEER, you're going to save about 40%. That seems to kind of jive with Councilmember Welch's example. If you take that up to the 16 SEER, you're going to save 68%. On your energy, which is, a pretty significant savings on the cooling side. I could see, an additional 28%, savings going to that 16 SEER really being, substantial for the city. And so that helps me feel really good about making an investment on the energy efficiency side for the air conditioning. Because I know air conditioning with the electric, to your comments, Mr. Mayor's going to be a huge cost driver for the city. So focusing there makes a ton of sense to me. On the heat side, the efficiency and the variable speed motor stuff, I don't see anything that I haven't found anything yet that makes it that quantitative for me to understand how that should weigh into the decision here.
I think your variable speed is more about comfort. And at my house, I leave the blower on all the time, so that's not an issue for me.
Yeah.
I like to filter the air, yes.
That plus if you have a basement, you get advantage of that
It
natural
circulates the-
cooling from the earth. So yeah, makes a big difference. We don't have a basement here though. We don't get that advantage.
But if you took that assumption, just a crude number like that, 30% better, versus your cost now, that's a simple way to calculate it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll have to get that from the sellers and then I can report back to you, as well as how much we spend on heat versus air. I think those are the three questions, or you guys feel comfortable with making a decision if you had those three, I guess. Is that what I'm hearing?
Are all these units available now?
So yeah, that's a good question. If we delay too long, Dan's Heating and Cooling will be out. They accepted a big job in 2024. So they were kind of thinking we were going to get her done at the end of 2023. I don't see 2 weeks making a difference that I know of. However, that was the only one that I know Keith said Dan's can't do it if they have to bleed into 2024, which there's a lot of work to be done. So that might be not an option if we wait.
Well, I'm still comfortable with Central Mechanical unless I can't imagine what we would come up with that would change that in my mind. I don't know about the rest of the crew here, but
Mr. Mayor, that's exactly kind of what I'm thinking, is that one really targets the energy efficiency on the air conditioner side, where I'm a lot more comfortable we're going to see the payback. What's unclear to me is when I look at their quote, their proposal, it says install 4 new RUD 14 or 16 SEER high efficiency splits with 95% furnaces. And then they have the alternate option for the 14 SEER. I just want to make sure that I guess that the 62,280 is for the 16 SEER version, not the or 14.
It looks like that's the case. If you scroll down, there's a highlighted alternate option 14C
Yeah.
that's listed at 60.
I think it's the or. Yeah,
And so the alternate is for the lower price. Is that how I should read that?
Yep,
that's the way I read it.
Usually I think about the alternate as the
Me too.
more expensive.
Yep,
Yeah.
So they quoted the more expensive and the alternate is for the cheaper.
that's what it looks like to me.
So isn't the top train at 20 SEER? Is that, what am I reading wrong there?
On the best performance.
On the very best, yeah. If you upgrade to, if you do the $9,000 upgrade.
I didn't
It
see
says
it.
to upgrade all 4 furnaces.
Those are the mini ducts, I believe. I believe the trains were 13. The installation of the Mitsubishi 20 SEER mini ducts. That's
Okay.
what.
Yeah, and
The
on
smaller ducts have a stronger.
right.
and on the central mechanical, they were 19 SEER mini
Yeah.
splits.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the quote from Central Mechanical Wichita in the amount of $62,280 for the Phase 1 proposal to replace HVAC units at City Hall and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mr. Welch and a second by Mr. Smith to accept the Central Mechanical proposal for $62,280. Any additional discussion?
I'm still okay with the 2 weeks. But you're not, Mr. Henry? You're not okay with 2 weeks?
No, well, I mean, I'd prefer to get her done, but if it's council's will.
Okay. If there's no additional discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
That motion carries 4-1.
Thank
Very
you.
good with Mr. David descending. Moving on to item E. So this is purchasing police vehicles. In 2021, council approved purchase of 2 2022 Ford Explorers replacement vehicles, but due to COVID, those vehicles have yet to be produced. And we received word a month ago that they were getting close to assembly. And with the new vehicle production strike, which has now expanded to, I think, 25,000 people, we heard they will be delayed for an unknown period of time or could be canceled. So TCS, the Wichita company who installs our police equipment, found 2 new 2023 Dodge Durango police vehicles in Arkansas. Chief determined these SUVs meet his specifications. They are used by KHP and are needed due to the aging Fords in his fleet. The action is to approve the change from the 2 Ford Explorers to the 2 Dodge Durangos. And the benefit of this change is they will be available for service in a month and are cheaper than the approved Fords. So staff is recommending approving the change and entertain any discussion. Do you have
Mr.
anything
Mayor.
to add to this, Mr. Henry?
Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, pretty much. We keep hearing word, hey, they're on the assembly line for the last year and a half, and they have not been here. So we went ahead and canceled it, and we're going to get the ones that we can. We got needs in our fleet, and these satisfy the needs. They're reliable, about the same cost. Chief, just the problem we have right now is we have 3 cars that are ready to be retired right now. So I think this is what we need to do to keep an efficient fleet.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
We used to have Dodge Chargers, and I remember the maintenance on those was a lot more than we thought it should be for the use in the vehicle. And we were really excited to get rid of the Dodge Chargers, 1, because of the maintenance issues, and 2, because we like the SUV format better. What I don't know is the maintenance cost issues that we had with the Chargers. Was that because they were Chargers or because they were Dodges? And I guess I'm just wondering, do we have any perspective on that?
Good question. I had thought the same thing.
Yeah. From conversations with Chief, that was a bad year of Dodge, bad few years of Dodge Challengers. You'll see the KPA, one followed me in, was in a Durango, and they've had better success with that type of vehicle. I know the hardships, and I know once you guys hear about something, that means it's been bothering the chief and Lieutenant Fox for months. And I know they wouldn't put themselves back into that type of situation even if it meant replacing the cars. They wouldn't make that investment. So there was no issues that we've seen with this model and this type of Dodge. Now, we, as always, we report per car number and different things like that if there is going to be repairs. But
So there are other departments using these. You said KPA.
Kansas Highway Patrol.
Kansas Highway Patrol uses these, and
yeah,
they've had a good maintenance experience with them.
They're all over the road, so I think they're a good purchase.
Well, one good thing about it is I can't remember how to pronounce that name of that company that owns Dodge now. Stellantis or something of that effect. They are not on strike, so that's a good thing. So the parts are still available.
And it may not matter if we need vehicles and these are the only vehicles available. Maybe it just doesn't matter. I don't know if that's where we're at.
And I don't want to say that, but really our contact, Chief being the guy he is the reason these are before us tonight. I can say that. All throughout municipalities, nobody can get a car.
When the Fords become available again, do we anticipate we'll switch back to those, or is the verdict out on that?
I think it's a good move moving to the Dodge product to see what we've had Explorers throughout. The problem is the supply. If you have an inefficient supply, you're going to lose some customers. However, I know the maintenance records are fine as well. But
I'll make a motion to authorize The change to purchase two 2023 Dodge Durangos from TCS Equipment, including upfitting of equipment and labor costs not to exceed $115,470, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Welch.
No, Mr.
No.
David.
Mr. David? Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that too good, but thank you for the
I still
correction.
have a question though,
Well, I'll let you ask your question. So,
and now I have to think what it was. Oh, last time we ended up getting the vehicles through the city of Wichita. Did we try that route again?
Not sure. Chief said he's on his way. If we want to ask him some questions on this, I think he was held up.
Okay. I would have no problem with buying one just to see how well it did. Two kind of gives me a little pause, but not a lot.
He said he's on his way, so I'm sure we can ask him some questions if you have pressing questions. But
Well, that was really my only question because I knew last time we had to go through Wichita because we couldn't get them on our own.
I think when you have this big of a shortage, Chief calls his contacts and finds the cars. And this is one of those scenarios as
So
well.
he's probably already been there, done that.
I would strongly, I think they've been beating the bushes for about a year now. So
I remember a couple years ago, he went down to Guthrie, Oklahoma to get a cruiser. So he's been looking around wherever he can to find them.
Okay, well, I propose we go ahead then.
So any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. So next item is resolution declaring the boundaries of the city of Bel Air. So any year in which territory has been added or excluded from the city boundaries, the governing body is required to declare by resolution the entire new boundary of the city. In 2023, the city annexed several parcels, which triggers a new boundary resolution. Staff has prepared a survey and resolution included the boundaries for your consideration. Upon approval, the resolution will be filed with the County Register of Deeds, State Transportation Engineer, County Engineer, and Election Commissioner. A new map of Bel Air is included in your packet, and I request that all future zoning or other matters refer to a map that includes these new boundaries. This will require map updates. So I especially appreciate the work of our city attorneys, Jackie Kelly and Maria Schrock. About a year ago, I asked Jackie to clear up the islands in Bel Air. That is those properties completely surrounded by Bel Air, but not annexed into Bel Air. Jackie started the project. Maria has completed it. So there are now no more islands within Bel Air except for 2 properties owned by the city of Wichita, which I don't think will ever change those. So that's where we are. And there's the new boundaries. Any questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
just curious on that. The 2 islands that are owned by the city of Wichita, is it a legal thing that if a city owns property, it becomes part of their city? Or if they have property that's entirely within the city of Bel Air, why would that not still be city of Bel Air?
Well, I'll defer to our
That's
city
a
attorney
question
for
for our
that one
attorney.
because I don't think I can answer that.
We're not the only one that have a map that looks like this. The only thing that I can do is look at each specific property and look at the history to give you more information as to how it became where it is. But this is not unusual. I found it very unusual when I joined. So I looked into it a little bit, but it occurs. I'm more than happy to get more information on those 2 spots.
So if the city of Bel Air purchased a parcel that was in Wichita, would that be city of Bel Air at that point?
No, there's no promise it would be Bel Air.
Okay.
To be an owner, but they would have to agree
Okay.
to de-annexation. so to speak.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
just to clarify, those 2 are the water tower property and the 53rd Street chlorine booster pump station. They look like those are the 2 sites. So those are 2 City of Wichita utility pieces
Yeah,
is what they are.
I think what happened, those were actually purchased and annexed into Wichita before Bel Air moved out to that area.
And I don't see it as a problem. It's
Yeah,
just
It's just funny.
just an interesting thing that I was curious about.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
I'll motion to approve a resolution declaring the boundaries of the city of Bel Air, Kansas as of October 3rd, 2023, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Is it Mr. Welch? No,
Mr.
Mr.
David.
David? Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Dean and a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item G. About a month ago, Bel Air installed an oxygenator at the 53rd Street lift station to test whether it would help reduce the corrosiveness of the sewage in the pipes and possibly reduce the odor at the 53rd Street midpoint. Our Public Works Director, Marty McGee, is here to tell us of the results and what these oxygenators will do for Bel Air.
Good evening. The oxygenators, what they do is, all it does is put oxygen down in the wet well, as you see right there. So what you're looking at is, without the oxygenators, you're going to get grease and fats and just a lot of stuff building up on everything, and it causes bacteria growth and everything, causing our sewers to corrode, and it will actually go downstream doing the same thing. So by introducing the oxygenators, it's going to help the sewers, the smell for one. It's going to help the gases from going all the way down to the lift stations at the CCUA plant. I don't know why we haven't done this a long time ago. I mean, we're trying to introduce some new stuff right now. We've been trying to help out our system, I should say. Once we found out that Rock Road had some problems, all the way down to 53rd, bunch of manholes we talked about. This could possibly help some of that problems that we have. So we installed this one on Rock Road the 16th, I believe it was. And we've seen a 44% reduction of the biochemical oxygen demand through there. So
D?
The BOD. And I believe it's helping. So we talked to Ann, myself, and Becky with Burns and McDonald's. We talked about it and said this is probably a good thing, and we probably need to move forward with putting a few more in and seeing where we go from there. I mean, it can do nothing but help our systems. So
Well, this has been an issue with CCUA with getting too much BOD, too much ammonia, and too much TSS in the influent, which
Correct.
causes problem on the effluent. So
yes.
it's hard to take it all out.
That's kind of why we did auto test sampler stations in these two lift stations to see where we're at. And we're taking samples each week and we're getting readings back. And we're in the process of doing a lot for the sewer systems here in Bel Air. So
Good.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
is this the spiral technology that we reviewed at one point in time?
no, this is just basically, it's going to drop down into the wet well. It's going to be a big container, stainless steel container. It's just going to force oxygen in. So it just brings it up to the top, continuously moves the sewage, and it doesn't allow it to grow bacteria or anything. I shouldn't say it doesn't allow. It will grow bacteria, but not as much with the help of moving something. You won't have stagnant.
And is this the same technology that we installed at I think the Rock Road lift station?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the same one. This
The
is
same one.
one. Yeah, so it's been in there for a little over
Okay.
a month.
Because at one point there was a proposal from an engineering company that we try those kind of spiral oxygenators.
That was a few years
Are we
ago, I believe.
using those anywhere?
No.
Okay.
This is kind of like putting the air pump in the aquarium, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. It's just moving stagnant water and trying to get more oxygen in it will allow you. So the one we put at Rock Road and just in 1 month, we can go down to the 53rd Street lift station and you can actually stand there.
This spells out so bad, huh?
It's helped a little bit, but you also have to look at the weather too. The weather has a lot to play with it, the bacteria growth and all that stuff. So, but I believe this is something we need to look into and do.
This is great.
Is this a one-time thing, or would we be looking at additional units in other
I'm
wells?
thinking that we're going to do now 3 now, and we got a total 6 lift stations. later down the line, if it's, showing good results, for this amount of money, I think we ought to invest in it. I mean,
Okay. And ongoing maintenance, you said we put a steel container down there. I'm assuming that's going to corrode and
it's not going to corrode.
It's
It's
not.
not supposed to. It's supposed to be a stainless steel, non-corrosive. Once you take it out once in a while, clean it, wipe it clean. We shouldn't have to do anything with it. It's basically
I'm
just,
sure it is, but please verify that it's a 300 series grade stainless.
Yeah.
If it's 15.5 or 400 series, it corrodes.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, reading the booklet on it, the T600 stainless steel is supposed to be a good unit. So,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I think this is a great idea. It's an incredibly cost-effective way to reduce BOD.
Mhm.
I'm not so sure that we actually should wait on the other lift stations. So I kind of think we should just go ahead and put one in all of them if it's going to reduce BOD. by
Can I
this.
chime in? Next week, we're gonna have a new pump for so right now we have about $150,000 scheduled for lift station operations. We've only spent about 20,000 of that this year. We have a $60,000 pump we need to replace next. So
it's 40.
40, sorry. You got it right. The repair was
That's
60.
next
That's
week.
the repair.
So I think if we want to do this, we can do it this year. It just might be best to wait until, let's say, November to do it, unless there's a cost savings, just to use up that, make sure we don't run into another pump failure. But if not, we can do either. But that was the
Reserve
strategy on
funds
that.
for a case that is a failure. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
It's kind of waiting till the end of the fiscal year to spend money on this versus before our start of the next fiscal year. But it's up to the council, of course.
Good input. Thank you.
I appreciate that recommendation because I was
So-
thinking the same thing, but I wasn't going to bring it up.
Mr. Mayor, my perspective is we should go ahead and do this now. And if we end up having an emergency or we need to, I'm sure we have a mechanism to provide additional funds for emergencies, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be running a budget amendment for the general fund, so I can schedule that a little later, and budget amendment would be our
We'd
our
have to do a
option.
budget amendment.
Correct. Well, depending on
Depending on what it
the
is.
severity
Okay.
of the situation, but
Because the BOD is a huge issue at CCUA, I know. And so making a significant impact on it for $12,000 is going to save the city a lot of money in the long run
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
compared to the things they're going to do at the plant to reduce BOD.
My only concern about doing them all right now is these other lift stations, how active are they? Are they,
That is a good question because there's a few that are, well, the new Oliver one, it was included in that. It's not active right now at all. The Webb Road lift station, it's not much going on with it either. So
the new one?
yeah, the new one. So
Okay.
there's not much going through there. So
Yeah.
until that new development gets finished,
Right.
and then it's going to be good. So either way is okay with me. You guys.
So these three lift stations are going in, or these three auctionators are going into the three most active lift stations.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then just the one thing to consider is that lesser active lift stations, that sewage sits there for longer. So we're kind of trying to figure out the best bet, the best benefit for the city. But the longer the sewage sits stagnant, the more
They built up.
BOD, the worse it gets, the more toxic it gets.
So even though there's
So-
not a lot of volume, it still might be good to put them there because there's not a lot of
Exactly.
volume.
Exactly. And my opinion is, I think the strategy is fine to start with the three, make sure that they're working the way we want to, and then come in and add the others. If we want to do that next month, if we want to do that the first of the year, I think that's fine. We've got the one sample that we've been using. It's been great, but I'm kind of a fan of phasing things in if you can.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean?
Yeah, I like that approach and I like the phasing for the simple fact that we can see how they perform. We can see if it's what we need, if it's going to do what we want. And then if it's not, we can make the decision to buy 3 that are different and we can test another 3. So with that said, I'll go ahead and motion to approve the quote from Lloyd Harold LLC for 3 oxygenators in the amount of $11,999.99 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. David. Any additional questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I think it's 97 cents. I think you may have said 99 cents.
2 pennies.
I think you might be right. I'll amend it to say 99 or 97 cents.
Come out of Tyler's pocket, those 2 cents.
Yeah, I may have. There's a lot of
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item H. So consideration quote of street sweeper repair. So our Public Works Director, Marty McGee, is here to tell us about these needed repairs.
So right now, our street sweeper is the only means of taking care of our streets around town. It's taking care of all the sand, the leaves, which are fixing to fall again. Currently, it is down because it needs a lot of work done to it. So I had them come out, key equipment come out and look at it and do 1,000-hour maintenance on it. And he looked at it and just kind of shook his head at me. And I was like, I'm doing what I can do here. There's a list on the report that I gave you guys. So everything is noted on there that needs to be done. And it's quite a bit. And we need to do this to get our street sweeper back up and running.
Means you need so many hinges on there. I'm wondering how the doors are staying on.
I tell you what, that thing it's got a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah.
A lot of hydraulics.
Yeah.
So
Marty, did we ever get a quote on what a brand new one was? I think it was.
it varies between 250 to 300,
This
320.
is a big piece of equipment. Just wanted to be sure that 20,000 is it's about 6% of the replacement.
That's
Yeah.
good to know. I was going to
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
the
yeah.
same question.
And this was something,
Yeah.
we got this report and this was a late addition to the agenda because, leaves are starting to fall and something to do. And even renting a street sweeper is very expensive. There's been requests to borrow our street sweeper. We've denied those over and over again from other municipalities because it's a premium equipment. And I think the FEMA rates on a street sweeper are crazy high. So it's tempting, but we never rent it out because of that reason.
After all these repairs, do we have any idea how long it'll be before we hit another?
Well, you know what? No, I don't. But what I am going to do is have key equipment give me a PM schedule on this thing. So every 6 months or 7, 8, 10 months, whatever they recommend, I'm going to have them come out. And that might cost us $500, $600, $700, $800 to have that done every time. But it will at least keep our sweeper on the road and keep it up and running instead of the last records I seen was 2020. This is the last time I could see that it's been serviced from an equipment dealer.
Yeah,
So-
regular maintenance can save on these big bills.
We do the Public Works does the regular oil change and stuff like that. But when it comes down to the brooms and all the hinges and pins and everything else you see on that report, that's something that's out of our hands. We don't have the capability of doing that.
Understood. It's just easier to chew on when it's not quite as big a bill.
I agree 100%. And hopefully it won't be like this again if we put a PM schedule on this. So
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the quote for street sweeper repair from Key Equipment in the amount of $19,220.26.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Welch. Any additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And Mr. McGee, just speaking of his PM schedules, I am a huge advocate of PM schedules on all equipment. that
I am
is
too.
used. You just have to do it.
Yep, you have to. I mean, it should have been done. It
Okay.
will be now.
So I want to have an executive session for 1 hour, but I'd like to call for recess first before we do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg,
I'm going to make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess and be back in here at 8:40 p.m.
Second.
motion by Ms. Hamburg, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's too bad. We're in recess for 5 minutes. Okay, we held a 5-minute recess. Obviously, we didn't talk about anything, so we'll call the meeting back to order and ask for a 1-hour executive session. And I think there's a motion in the packet there.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of attorney-client consultation regarding contractual obligations pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite the assistant city manager, the city attorney, the city engineer, and Neil Ghosh. The meeting will be for a period of 60 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:40 p.m.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Executive session for 1 hour. Mr. There he is. Okay. Okay, we held executive session. I'm going to call the meeting back into order. No binding action was taken, and we're ready to move on to item B. Which is to the letter of engagement with Triplett, Wolf, and Garrison.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the letter of engagement with Triplett, Wolf, and Garrettson for legal services and authorize the mayor to sign.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Dean. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Move on to item 8, or 13, sorry, read the Roman numerals correctly. 13A, so workshop is next Tuesday at October 10th at 6:30 PM. I do have one issue that I mentioned earlier in the meeting about the Aurora Park Gravel Road Committee recommendations. I would like to have some sort of discussion presentation on what we think we can or should do there. Any other issues that we want to bring into the workshop?
Mayor, we got Maria's going to talk sign code with elections, as well as council minutes. And Ty mentioned maybe PEC would have some other water and sewer updates
Okay.
for us as well.
Good.
And then we're working, Trans Systems might have another update for us as well. So I think we'll have a full slate,
Okay. Sounds like there's plenty-
including Aurora. If you,
Yeah,
if you-
sounds like there is.
I'll
plenty.
add that on the list.
Yeah. Okay. And it doesn't have to be next time if we don't get to it, but I just don't want us to drop it either.
Understandable.
Okay. So they did put a lot of work into it. I want us to make sure that we do our part. Okay. So, all right. Any other things we want to talk about before we adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Welch. We're not going to allow any discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same side. We are